It's day 17 of the Sunny Balwani trial. I'm going to give you the highlights of the testimony today, and we're going to take a look at some actual court exhibits. You know me, I like to look at the evidence, and you can make the call whether this evidence ties Sunny Balwani to those investor counts of which Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of. And I'm going to give you some scheduling updates and what evidence did the judge not allow in? We're going to talk about that. Hi there, I'm Michelle Hagan. I'm a legal analyst and a former prosecutor. You may recognize me because I provided a lot of legal analysis on the Elizabeth Holmes case. These videos are for educational information, simply my opinion. So please do leave your analysis. Leave a comment below, hit that like button. Please support my work by subscribing. And thank you to all of those of you who have subscribed. I appreciate you supporting my work. And by the way, this Friday, we're going to have our very first live stream, and we're going to talk about Sunny Balwani and Elizabeth Holmes' trial. So please do join me, join us this Friday night, April 29th, 6 to 7 p.m. California time. All right, so let me give you the highlights. Adam Rosendorf, the former lab director of Theranos, is a company that was started by Elizabeth Holmes, a blood testing company. Sunny Balwani is the co-defendant. He's being tried separately. He's the alleged co-conspirator of Elizabeth Holmes in defrauding investors, allegedly defrauding investors and defrauding patients. Okay? So Adam Rosendorf worked for Theranos as a lab director in 2013 and 2014. So what evidence did the defense want to get in? They wanted to bring up the fact that as Adam Rosendorf's lab was recently shut down by the state. And I guess they want to use that to impeach his credibility. But the judge said, no, you can't get into it. Because the judge said it's more prejudicial than probative. What does that mean? It means that it's more inflammatory and more damaging towards Rosendorf than it is helpful to a jury. And by the way, whether or not it's relevant, because we don't know why that lab was closed down. But again, the defense wants to show that Adam Rosendorf is a bad lab director. That's why they were having all these problems. They want to point the finger at Adam Rosendorf. But the judge is not letting that evidence in. Okay, so let me tell you some of these highlights. So the defense on cross-examination wanted to get Rosendorf to acknowledge that he had asked Balwani for more Edison machines. So they asked Rosendorf to acknowledge that he recommended doubling the number of Theranos Edison devices so they could run more tests in 2014. And I'll show you that email, so stay tuned. Why do they want to get into that? Why do they want to say that Rosendorf told Balwani to order more Edisons? Well, it could be argued that how was Balwani to know there was a problem with the Edisons if Rosendorf kept ordering them? And if Rosendorf is going to testify, and did testify, certainly did in the Holmes case, you know, as to the inaccuracy, the unreliability of the devices, why is he asking Balwani for more devices? So we'll look at that. Okay, then there was a question whether or not cross-examination, what you could be characterized, I think somebody characterized it as contentious between the defense attorney and Rosendorf. Okay, this is round 2. Keep in mind, this is round 2 or round 3 for Rosendorf. He testified in the Holmes case, right? So keep in mind that cross-examination doesn't have to be contentious. You're not there to beat up the witness. I mean, if the jury, if it's a totally bad dude and you think you have the permission of the jury to argue, to lay into a witness, that's another story, right? But you know, Rosendorf doesn't come off as a very somebody that you would think is taking one side or the other necessarily. I mean, yeah, you could certainly be argued that, but it doesn't need to be contentious. What you need to do on cross-examination, or what you want to do on cross-examination, is just get that witness to admit to things that are helpful. So in this case, the defense, it got Rosendorf to admit that he did recommend ordering more Edisons, right? So that completely rebuts, possibly, his testimony that these Edison machines were unreliable. Okay, the other thing is, you can use, in cross-examination, you can try to impeach a witness, right? And they tried to get into his current employment or his prior employment that had issues with the lab. Now, we don't know if that was related to Rosendorf or whatever. We don't know. That's completely speculation. So, what happened on redirect? And I call redirect rehabilitation, right? So, for whatever damage that was done in cross-examination. So, what happened to redirect on Rosendorf? So, Rosendorf said he was a lab director at Theranos from 2013 to 2014. He said, quote, "I was constantly trying to get to the truth of how actually things were being done, regardless of my instructions." And he said that the Theranos Edison accuracy and reliability issues were never resolved. Okay, but why is he asking Balwani to order more of those Edisons? So let me show you that email that may have been used here. I think it was. And I pointed this out, I think, in the video I did the video I did yesterday about this particular exhibit. And if you notice up here, this is the defense exhibit. This was entered in by the defense in the Holmes case. So let's take a look at what it says. Let me scroll down here. So this is one of the lab techs letting Rosendorf know that they're having issues with some of the samples in the quality control. So let me get to the bottom here. Okay, so here we go. So the lab tech is letting Rosendorf, giving him an update that the shift ends in 2 hours. What do we do with the pending tests? And you can see that they have 19 pending tests under TSH. You can go ahead and take a look at this. Then they're having to rerun a bunch of tests because of quality control, QC. And the lab tech is giving Rosendorf an update. Rosendorf is probably trying to figure out how to deal with this, with the shift ending, and they still have pending results. So here they have 23 pending tests. They reran, only 2 passed. They reran QC, it failed again and again. Hi, Adam. This is an update on the second shipment. Our shift ends in 2 hours. What do we do with the pending test? Rosendorf says to Sunny now. Okay, so they're tying him to the lab, potentially to the patient counts, right? Because were these fast, accurate, reliable results or not? So, hi, Sunny. It looks like there's quite a backlog of the Edison tests. For instance, for the TSH, there are 4 Edisons that are available and passed quality control QC and 23 pending tests. He's suggesting if we divide them up into batches of 6 per Edison, that would mean we'd have 6 hours more testing, would end around 11 o'clock. The staff is already working till 7. What do you think? So this could be argued that he's asking for more Edisons, right? So what does Sunny respond? Adam, we will tweak the software to allow us to do that. In the meantime, we will push to get more devices done. The driving factor will be no backlog or delay in patient samples. So what this email is suggesting, is that Rosendorf is saying, hey, we need more of Edison's. We need more of the devices. Otherwise, we're going to have to keep employees working until 11 o'clock at night. And Balwani says, okay, we'll get the devices. We'll get them prepared, right? He's doing all the software, apparently, getting these devices ready to do their special tests. Anyway, if Rosendorf had an issue with the accuracy and the reliability of these Edisons, what's he doing reaching out to Balwani and saying, basically, we need more, or we're going to have to double up? That's something maybe that the defense is arguing. All right, so what else did they do on cross-examination? Well, he did say, Rosendorf said they were never able to resolve the accuracy and the reliability issues, right? So that goes to what statements did Balwani make, or to, Elizabeth Holmes made? What statements did they make? Were they true or false regarding fast, accurate, and reliable tests? Okay, so Rosendorf, when he was asked about, his working relationship with Holmes and Balwani, he said that Sunny Balwani and Elizabeth Holmes decided how much power he would have as the lab director. They controlled his job, right? He was the lab director, but he's saying he was controlled by Sunny Balwani and Elizabeth Holmes. Okay, again, that ties Sunny Balwani into this. He's not saying he was only responsible to Elizabeth Holmes. He's saying that both of them impacted his job. He also said he was left out of emails. I was essentially lied to, is what Rosendorf said. I know that that's a strong word, that he was lied to. That's what Rosendorf testified to. Now, he wrapped up his testimony by saying that they were on redirect, okay, that there were still accuracy and transparency issues. And he said that his conscience was bothered. I was really bothered by what I had experienced at the company, at Theranos. I said to Balwani on my last day, it wasn't worth my reputation to stay at Theranos. So that's why Rosendorf left. He didn't want to jeopardize his reputation. His conscience was bothering him, and he couldn't get these accuracy and reliability issues resolved. On recross by Balwani's counsel, it seemed that it was described that Rosendorf seemed pretty annoyed, and that he wanted to explain some of his answers, but Balwani's counsel wouldn't let him. Okay, he said he was asking questions, and that's all that he had. So Rosendorf was a bit annoyed, I guess, at the style of cross-examination. That happens. So who are they calling next? And here's where it gets interesting. The next witness that testified today was Elisa Peterson. She is the investor witness for the DeVoss family, okay? And several members of the DeVoss family went to Theranos, went to the lab, had their blood tested, met with Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani, okay? Lisa Peterson's testimony is going to be really important, as it was in the Holmes case, because her testimony ties Balwani to those investor counts of which Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of. All right, so I wanted to show you some of the exhibits related to Lisa Peterson. I'll give you the heads up here. Those darn logos show up again. That investor's binder shows up. That Fortune article, she testified to all of that in the Holmes case. Okay, so let me show you a couple of these exhibits. And you can make the call. You can make the call as to whether or not this evidence in Lisa Peterson's testimony will tie Sunny Balwani to those 6 investor counts, 4 of which Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of. 3 relating to individual investors, Dan Mosley, Brian Grossman of the PFM Health Sciences Fund, and the DeVoss family, okay, which Lisa Peterson is their investor. She was one of their investment advisors, okay? So let's take a look, and you can make the call whether this evidence is going to be helpful or not towards Balwani. Okay, so let's look at a couple of these emails here. So this is Lisa Peterson. It's an email, and I want to show you. Let's go down to the bottom here. These were some of the exhibits in the Holmes case. Okay, this is relating to several of the DeVoss family. And why does the DeVoss family members matter? Because they invested $99 million. They are the biggest chunk of money. They were the ones that invested the most in all of these investor counts. They invested over $99 million in Theranos. Okay, so here's the setup. Several of the family members, DeVoss family members, went to Theranos. So I'll give you a little bit of the background here. So Jerry is their investment advisor, one of their investment advisors. He's reaching out to Elizabeth Holmes, and this is September 18th. Several of the DeVoss family members and Jerry and Lisa Peterson go to Theranos in October of 2014 before the DeVoss family decides to invest in Theranos. Consider due diligence possibly, right? So he reaches out. Dear Elizabeth, what a great pleasure it was to meet you and Christian, that's Christian Holmes, her brother, yesterday and get a sense of your values and vision for Theranos. You have created something truly amazing. It does seem we have much in common. I came away inspired and enthused. I was able to speak to several DeVoss family members today about Theranos, and they're excited in the undertaking. Overwhelmingly enthusiastic response from both second and third generation DeVoss family members. You can go ahead and read this. Dan Mosley, he's also one of the investors, and he invested close to $6 million of his own money in Theranos. He is count 8. Count 7 is the $99 million from the DeVoss family. All right, so Dan Mosley, Jerry says that he spoke to Dan Mosley, and that Mosley indicated he would send him a confidentiality agreement that he had to execute before they could go visit Theranos and have further discussions about investing in Theranos. And then Jerry talks about an on-site visit, which they did take. Several of the members went to Theranos Lab to visit with Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani. And they're trying to figure out the day. They decide October 14th or 15th. Then Elizabeth responds, Jerry, thanks for your note and your comments below. It was wonderful to meet you. We too are deeply interested in the potential long-term relationship here. Our conversation and discussion on values and long-term value creation greatly resonated with us. We very much look forward to welcoming you to California. October 14th was the date. And then she talks about you can plan to get materials to you, that investment binder, which I'll show you, upon receipt of your confidentiality agreement. I'm looking forward to this, Elizabeth. Then Jerry reaches out to Elizabeth and Sunny in this email and CCs it to Doug DeVoss, who's one of the DeVoss family members that goes to do the on-site visit of Theranos. Elizabeth and Sunny, thank you so much for our meeting Tuesday. They met, several of the DeVoss family members went, they met with Sunny and Elizabeth. So Jerry's saying thank you for the on-site visit. Thank you very much for our meeting Tuesday with Doug, Sherry, Rick, and me. It was wonderfully informative and in fact extremely encouraging and exciting to learn more about Theranos and the truly amazing opportunities and potentials that lay ahead. Now, of course, you do know the prosecution is alleging that this wonderfully informative visit was laced with a lot of statements that they are alleging, which constitute fraud. Okay? So we would love to move forward, is what Jerry's saying on behalf of the DeVoss family. As discussed, an investment of $100 million seems fit. Yeah, we are truly honored to have this opportunity, and we look forward to a long and successful partnership. And again, thank you for using your talent and efforts to create something that will be a benefit to so many. All the best, Jerry. Okay. Then Elizabeth responds to Jerry. Dear Jerry, thank you for your note. Blah, blah, blah. You can read this. Sunny will follow up with a note tomorrow with the details from here. Sunny will follow up. Okay. So this is tying Sunny to the investor counts. Sunny is to get in touch with me regarding the next steps. I'll keep you posted. Is Jerry letting Lisa Peterson know? You can go ahead and read this. Okay, now I want to show you another exhibit. So this is from Jerry from the DeVoss family, the RDV Corporation. It says from Jerry to Sunny. Sunny attaches our executed document for our investment. They have to sign off, right? Please confirm receipt, after which we will wire the $100 million as per your prior instructions. All the best, Jerry. You see, here is the the RDV Corporation, the DeVoss family, $99 million, just over $99 million. It's being sent to Sunny Balwani, not Elizabeth Holmes, to Sunny Balwani, tying him potentially to these investor counts. Okay, so what's the executed document here? It's a signature page, and it was signed by a representative from the RDV Corporation, the DeVoss Family Corporation. And it also shows that the $99,999,984 to purchase over 5 million shares, Series C2 preferred stock of Theranos, was what the RDV Corporation, the DeVoss family, invested in Theranos. All right, so here's that. Now I want to show you. Here is a memo that Lisa Peterson sent to her boss, Jerry Tubergen, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. This is her summary, her analysis of Theranos. So you might want to read through this. It's quite interesting. So she gives him this analysis October 3rd. They visit Theranos October 14th. One of the, I think Sherry's the one, Sherry DeVoss, I think it's the one that gets the blood test done on the Edison, although she's not given results at that time. All right, Lisa Peterson will fill us in about what happened there. But here's Lisa Peterson's recap of conversation she had with Elizabeth Holmes. Excerpts from the written materials, the binder, I'll show you in a second, that was sent to her and also many of the potential investors. Talks about Theranos right here. This is what she understood in her conversations with Elizabeth Holmes. Okay, doesn't say Balwani, it says Elizabeth Holmes. That Theranos requires only a pinprick and a drop of blood instead of vials of blood. More accurate, faster results, cheaper. And that it was accessible to people everywhere. They were laser focused, Theranos was, on having a lab, a wellness center within 5 miles of every American, 1 mile to every city dweller. The market was a $180 billion market for blood testing. Theranos was operating 22 lab locations. Some in California. It was actually the one in Palo Alto and several in the Phoenix area. Also, the Theranos revenue for 2015 is projected to be $990 million. Now, we found out that wasn't true in this case and also in the Holmes case. Remember, we had Denise Yam, the controller, testify earlier in this trial that they were hundreds of millions in a loss. They never made revenue, and if they did, it was very modest. So certainly a projection of 990 million. Sure, the prosecution is going to argue that was a misrepresentation. It's fraud. But this is what Lisa Peterson, this is where, who did she get the information from? She's telling us Elizabeth Holmes. And she said Holmes believed the company's primary risk is the execution of its business plan. The risk is the execution of the business plan rather than the technology. Very interesting, right? Was that a true statement? Was their technology fast, accurate, and reliable? You can go ahead and read through this. Saying Theranos had no debt. Now I think Denise Yam, their controller, testified otherwise. Holmes stated the equity they're likely able to raise will exceed raising over $500 million. In this case, in the indictment, both Holmes and Balwani, in the investor counts, if you total up the money, it's $155 million that they took in from investors in 2013. I think it was from December 2013 to October 2014. The DeVoss family, Dan Mosley, and the PFM, $38 million from the PFM fund, that they got in 2014. Okay, so you can go ahead and read through this. This is her summary, and I'm just pointing out what I thought was interesting. And she also noted here, Theranos uses their own analyzer equipment. Well, we know that isn't true in the Holmes case. They were using third-party devices. How they accomplish what they do with a small blood sample is a trade secret. Yes, they told Lisa Peterson it was a trade secret. Holmes will only say that their equipment uses the same fundamental chemical methods existing labs do. Advances relate to optimizing the chemistry and leveraging software. Now, of course, the government's going to argue this complete and utter fraud, and we'll see. We'll see what the jury says. So she also pointed out, as far as the criticism of the Theranos, was their lack of any publication of any validation studies in peer-reviewed journals. Holmes views peer-reviewed publications of validation studies as both unnecessary and inappropriate. And again, you can go ahead and read through this, but it doesn't mention any statements made by Balwani to Lisa Peterson, although Balwani was at the meeting when the DeVoss family members were there visiting, their on-site visit. Okay, now let me show you the binder that was sent to Lisa Peterson. Okay, now this binder contained many representations. Here's some materials of a PowerPoint presentation made by Theranos, and I'm just going to scroll through this, and you can see it says at the bottom here, RDB. That's the RDB, that's the DeVoss family. This relates to their testimony. Lisa Peterson is testifying on behalf of that investment of $99 million. Here were the materials that she was provided. She testified in the Holmes case. She got this binder from Elizabeth Holmes. It was sent to her so she could do, her due diligence, right? Research the company, put together an analysis, provide that memo to her boss, who then could have conversations with the DeVoss family members and decide whether or not they were going to invest in Theranos. These highlights and notes are Lisa Peterson's, they're not mine. Microsamples generate significantly higher integrity data. Clinical lab improvements, she notes here. Looks at here are the names of the board members. Sunny Balwani is the Theranos president, COO. You can read through this. High complexity of the lab. Thought it was interesting. Here's their CLIA certificate of compliance, and Adam Rosendorf is listed as the lab director. And this was dated January 2014. And again, keep in mind that DeVoss invested, wired that $199, almost $100 million to Theranos on October 31st, on Halloween of 2014. This is all the materials that they provided, Theranos provided to potential investors, and in particular to Lisa Peterson. After running clinical trials, GSK lab director concluded that Theranos lab infrastructure eliminates the need for a lab. So again, Lisa Peterson is relying on the information that she was provided. Was it true? Were these misrepresentations fraudulent? Here's more information. Here's the vials versus their little nanotainer that Theranos provides. I'm just going to scroll through this. You can look at it. Again, these are her notes, Lisa Peterson's notes. They were looking at what Quest and LabCorp were doing, the competitors, potential competitors of Theranos. Select contracts between labs and insurance companies to pull through patients, right? They're evaluating whether this is a good investment to make. Automation, standardization, these are all her notes. I didn't make any of these highlights. Cost savings. Theranos is standardized, she writes. She was evaluating the material that was provided. Okay. She also, by the way, does testify and did testify in the Holmes case that she read that Fortune article written by Roger Parloff and relied on those statements, fast, accurate, and reliable testing that was in that Fortune magazine article. Cost savings, you can look at all of this. She was crunching the analysis, crunching the information and the numbers. And I'm going to get to those darn logos, so hang on. It's in this investor packet that she was given, Lisa Peterson was given. But I thought you might want to look to see. Again, these are her highlights. Theranos runs any test available, right? We found out in the Holmes case that wasn't true. They weren't able to do all the tests. Okay, then, of course you see fast, accurate, reliable, mentioned several times, micro samples, better way to see results. They could predict disease progression by their tests. You can read through this. The lab experience processes more than 151 million tests. It's a 180 billion year market, and it's growing. They wanted to jump in. This looked like a great investment, as many of these other investors testified to in the Holmes case. This is all about the wellness centers and Walgreens. You can look at my prior video. Here's those wellness centers. Okay, and let's see. I wanted to get to the logos here. Let's see, what page is that on? Oh yeah, here's the press. She's showing, Elizabeth Holmes is showing where they receive. There's that Fortune article by Roger Parloff. She's in the BBC, in Forbes, USA Today, Arizona, Republic. This is showing, that, it's a credible company, right? They're getting a lot of press. I think maybe that's the representation Theranos is making. Telling you about the headquarters. Okay, I'm going to move ahead. There's Arizona's customer feedback, all the feedback from physicians. You can look at that. Physician-directed testing. This was 187 pages in this binder that Lisa Peterson received from Elizabeth Holmes. This is what she went through before she generated that memo to her boss, Jerry, as to whether or not, the DeVoss family should invest in Theranos. Okay, access for everyone. I'm going to move forward here. Let's see. So I want to show you, here's the logos. So Dr. Cullen testified in Balwani's case that, see this Pfizer logo here? And you'll see on the next page the Pfizer logo, those darn logos. Elizabeth Holmes admitted that she misappropriated these, right? She put these on these documents. She didn't have permission. That's what Dr. Cullen testified to use these Pfizer logos. Yet that's the information. This is the binder that's provided to Lisa Peterson. Why? Why would you put a Pfizer logo if you didn't have the authorization to do it? You weren't at that time. You didn't have a contract or a relationship with Pfizer. What was the point of putting that Pfizer logo on these materials that were provided to prospective investors such as the DeVoss family? So there's, pages of this with the logo. It takes time to put these on each one of these pages, right? Very deliberate, I think, in my opinion. I mean, clearly they were trying to paint a picture that they had a relationship with Pfizer, which wasn't true in the Holmes case, which wasn't true according to Dr. Cullen's testimony. All right, who used to work at Pfizer. So you can just see pages and pages. So those are the documents I wanted to show you regarding Lisa Peterson's testimony. And in my opinion, looks like it ties it to Balwani. He's involved in having the DeVoss family sign off on their almost $100 million investment, wiring instructions, right? It goes to Sunny and Jerry from the DeVoss family representation. Ties Balwani to those investor counts, and specifically to the DeVoss investment, which Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of. The 900, what is it? I have to read this. $99,999,984 that Theranos received on October 31st, 2014. It's count 7. Elizabeth Holmes was convicted of this. What's Balwani's defense going to be, right? And by the way, if you look at the video that I did on calculating Elizabeth Holmes' sentence, you can also look at it regarding calculating Sunny Balwani's sentence, because when you defraud that amount of money, we're looking at $100 million just on the count relating to the DeVoss family, relating to Lisa Peterson's testimony. That exposes Sunny Balwani to significant prison time. Takes him way down that schedule of time, right? So let's see what they do on cross-examination with Lisa Peterson. I mean, that binder was provided. She relied on those statements. She relied on the statements in the Fortune magazine article. Statements that Elizabeth Holmes, not Sunny Balwani, Elizabeth Holmes made to Roger Parloff. Those logos appeared in the materials that were provided, the representations that were provided in those investor materials. You tell me, what's your analysis? Do you think, that it ties it to Sunny Balwani? Do you think those were misrepresentations to amount to fraud, as the government alleges? So, last point here, scheduling update. They are going to have trial on Friday. There is no trial next Friday currently. Now the schedule might change. And by the way, 2 additional trial days were added, May 27th and June 7th. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any trial days for the Balwani case in between. So it looks like we've got 10, 12 trial days left. We'll see. So I'm curious, what's your analysis? Please do leave a comment. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you for supporting my work. Hit the bell notification and hit that like button. Thanks for watching. Oh, and do join me for the live stream on Friday. And don't forget to subscribe so you can participate in the live stream on Friday, 6 to 7 o'clock. See you then.